Welcome to Push for Love, where positivity and inspiration thrives. I am your host, Sister Kimmery, and we are thrilled to embark on this journey with you as we listen to uplifting stories, share valuable insights, and discover the power of positivity in our lives. Push for Love is a nonprofit organization that supports parents with special needs children and caregivers emotionally and financially. Today's guest is Sister Lateefah Muhammad. She'll talk about caregiving and self-care. So, welcome, Sister Lateefah. Thank you so much for coming to the show. I want you to take us on the journey of your life being a caregiver and these wonderful self-care skills you have. Of course, I'm going to have so many questions, I'm sure, along the way, but I want you to take the floor now and take us on this journey with you.
Praise be to Allah. Thank you, Sister Kimmery, for the invitation. Certainly, I want to open in the name of Allah, who is the beneficent, the merciful. And I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, who came to us in the person of Master Fard Muhammad. And I'm so grateful for that, for the journey with him and through him. And I thank him for raising the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, who, without him making the connection, we wouldn't even know self to begin to think about self-care coming out of our condition in America. And like you, as the minister said, if we lived 1,000 years, we could not thank them both enough.
That's right.
For the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who is an example for us in practically every discipline that we're even interested in pursuing. He's touched it in some kind of way. So, in their names and in those gone on, the ancestors who really taught caregiving by their life, the quality of their lives. I greet you, Assalamu alaikum, and your listening audience. Life in caregiving, it's funny, I guess, in some ways. In some ways it could be embarrassing, I guess. But I never thought caregiving for myself.
Right.
As a child, when girls typically do marriage nurses, being mothers, those were not things that appealed to me. So what we looked at as the feminine side, that wasn't the attraction. It was the outdoors, the rough tumble. I only knew that I wanted to teach. I only knew I was going to be a teacher. I knew that for sure with every fiber of my being. But caregiving, and certainly not taking care of others in their dire time of need.
Mm-hmm.
However, that is what I was reared on by my mother.
Okay.
My mother always took care of those in our family who became sick, to the point of bringing them in our home. We always made room somewhere for someone who was not doing well, and they would be in our home, some of them to their transition, others who were able to get well enough. So we grew up watching how to take care, mainly of family members and neighbors. And then as we got older, my mother really became the constant caregiver to my father, who had lots of complications from diabetes.
Okay.
So we watched that from diet and medicine to amputation to heart issues. So we saw all those stages. We helped to take care of my aunt, her sister, with cancer, and we watched that process. And neighbors next door running out to go give him his insulin shot because he was in his 90s and couldn't do it. So you don't think about how you're internalizing those things, and not just the skill, but even the spirit and the empathy, the gentleness, the way you speak to people, all of that became internalized and I didn't even know it. Um, I didn't know it was in me
Right.
until I was forced in the situation
Mm.
to have to take care of my husband who, succumbed to cancer very quickly, but long enough for me to be in the throes of caregiving and really to understand what it meant to love someone so much that you want to take care of them. You want them to be safe. You want them to be protected and happy. And you want to see them have the best quality of
Right.
life that they can have while they go through things that they go through.
Yep.
So when Brother Earl got his diagnosis, I was coming out of my cancer recovery. And
Wow.
he had been a good caregiver for me. As a matter of fact, I fought his caregiving. Yeah. Brother Earl was always the protective husband. He was that
Right.
kind of husband. He definitely put, a ring around me. And I
Mhm.
thank Allah for that. But in my recovery, I remember him, you know, telling people, no, that you can't come over. She's not going to be on the phone. She's not going to do this. And I'm fussing. I'm like, yes, they can do that. But all the while, I'm seeing the attentiveness. I'm
Right.
seeing we have, a brand new child in the house, 2, 3 years old.
Mhm.
And together we're taking care of this child while I'm trying to, stay out of the toilet from
Right.
vomiting from chemotherapy and just watching the way that he did for me and had no idea that within 3, 4 months, I would be doing the same thing,
Wow.
for him.
Mm. Mhm.
So what I really continue to grow to know, it is our nature because that is what Allah does for us.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, He cares for us so much. And again, because we don't think about it,
That's right.
oftentimes we don't even think of the worthiness of it.
Right.
That we get sick, we go to a doctor, we take the pills, we come home, we feel bad, we lay around, we fuss, but life does not have to be that way.
Right.
And the more we connect to Allah first,
Mhm.
and then we do what the most honorable Elijah Muhammad said, accept our own and be ourselves.
Right.
Ourself, we are God's. And a God is beneficent and merciful. He is caring. He is loving. There's just so many qualities and attributes that come under that. So, I would say to anyone who thinks like I did, that I can be a caregiver. Yes, as the minister say, yes, we can,
Yes, we can.
and we must, and we will,
Right.
because we are all in the life process,
Right.
making our way to be cared for in a different way. My grandmother used to tell us when she was young and spry, and we would see her do something, and we'd be like, Nina, what you doing? And she said, don't worry, honey. She said, once an adult, twice a child. You get your chance to tell me what to do and take care of me, And at the time you hear it, you don't even think about it. You just laugh, listen to Nanny. But when her time came to be cared for, she reveled in it. She was like, come on, you
How about
know,
that? How
come
about
on.
that?
You submitted, and everyone doesn't, and that's
I
when
was
you have
going to
challenges.
say, I was
Yes.
going to say real quick, I have heard two people told me recently how their mother just rebelled about take when someone trying to take care of them. It's like they will fight tooth and nail. And it's like, but
Yes.
you can't. And it's like, and I say, well, what is that? It's like they're trying to hold on to their independence, or the fact that I can still
Absolutely.
do this, instead of just realizing, okay, I'm just not it's not how it used to be. I really can't do it, you know?
Right. And some can, some can't. I know it was tricky with my mother. My mother had a stroke,
Okay.
and the process of watching this woman fight, I think my mother was around in her 80s. She may have just turned 80 when she had her stroke. And when I found her, she was literally in a fetal position with only her left leg stuck out.
Mm.
But everything else, it had knocked her so hard
Mm-hmm.
that she was just in a ball. And that was how we literally had to take her, paramedics had to lift her out in that position to
Okay.
take her to the
Okay.
hospital. She still could speak, but her mobile function was pretty much gone. Um, Her mind, I can do, I can do, I can do.
Yeah.
Fortunately for her, that was a driving force. It was a driving force because 3 days later, when they asked her, well, Miss Grace, what do you want to do? She said, go home.
Mm-hmm.
And that was her motivator. And we watched her do all the physical therapy, the occupational therapy, speech therapy, everything that she had to do in the hospital so
Mm-hmm.
that she could get home.
Right.
Once she got home, she wasn't as gung ho about the exercises because we brought all the exercises home,
Mm-hmm.
everything she was doing. But once we got in the house, her goal had been met. I want to get home.
Mm-hmm.
What she did want to do was drive. And we were like, Bubba, you can't drive. And that was the thing I think that challenged her the most. She never was able to drive again. She
Okay.
did
Yeah.
not recover to the point where she could drive. But once she was able to start walking, going back to the store, when we would rush to try to do something, she would pat our hand. She said, I got it.
Mm.
And then she had to say to us, let me do it while I can. And eventually, those things did
That
deteriorate,
part.
but we did. When I saw the handwriting change when it came to writing checks and taking care of her bills, because she wasn't doing the digital thing, you
Right.
we were able to have a discussion to transition to, okay, I'll sign them. You tell me what you want to put on them, but always finding the way to keep her engaged in everything that she could, and then, slowly turn over different pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when it got to the point where um, changing clothes,
Mm-hmm.
we all remember the first day she came downstairs and we don't know what she had on.
Right.
And of course, your natural response is, Mama, what you got on? She's thinking, I'm looking good.
Right, right.
That was the way she processed. And then we had to quickly catch up with her and realize, okay,
Yeah.
this is what it's going to be. So
Right.
we had to start laying out clothes and selecting. And then, still, even if she put it on, we had to find the way to gently say, well, let's turn this around.
Right.
Let me see if I can do so and so. Again, going back to watching her, how she handled people, because
Mhm.
the brain is saying, let me turn this thing around. But you have to translate differently when
Right.
communicating with someone that we're taking care of. And, it didn't all just come at one time over a 5-year period. It
Mm-hmm.
before it was every day around the clock. And that becomes different because at first you can go to work, you can leave her at home, she can do things, and then you get that phone call We saw your mother walking up the street and she had her pajamas on.
Right.
And ah,
Right.
so another piece is added. Or you go home and you smell smoke. She forgot, left something.
Yeah.
One day, the living room is flooded. She didn't turn the water off upstairs. So
Right.
happen in pieces
Yeah.
and things happen inside of you
Yeah.
because you're seeing someone you love who's changing,
Yeah.
but now you're responsible for the health and making sure of the well-being. You still have all the other things. Nothing in your life has stopped to be put on pause. So then you have to start the balancing act.
Yeah.
And that's when either you go deep and find out what we're made of.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times we come to different points that we have to determine, is this where I break or is this where I dig deeper?
Right.
You know?
That's right.
And another month, again, you're right back at the same thing. Do I break? Do I have any more to dig deeper?
Mm-hmm.
Amazingly, I found the more I wanted to dig, there was more there.
How about
And
that?
it was amazing to me
Yeah.
because you're like, oh my God, I can do this, I could do it and I could feel good. And that don't mean you don't have the days and nights you don't cry,
That's
or
right.
the days that you go outside and you throw something and then you walk back in and take a deep breath and start, the process all over again. The times when you're fussing because you got brothers and sisters and it's like
Yeah.
nobody there but you.
I hear that all the time from other people, just hearing other people's story. It was like it's as though I'm the only child. It's like, where
Mhm,
are the brother and sisters?
mhm.
Brothers and sisters. Where are they? It's like it's always that one that
Yeah.
actually just do it, right? And then you're upset. It's like because she has other
I
children.
remember one of my siblings saying, well, we wanted to come over there, but you was in charge. And I'm thinking to myself, there's nothing that could have kept me from my mother. I don't care who
Who's in
was
charge?
there. But, again, you find out what you can handle. You find out how to compartmentalize things in your life. You find out emotional levels. You
Yeah.
learn old history in the family you didn't know was going on. you know,
Right.
Everything starts coming out when you get involved in that kind of situation. So, at a point, I knew because one of the, I guess, chronic things that stayed with me from the cancer, um, my immune system, I had to take old chemotherapy. My
Yeah.
cancer was to the level that the newer treatments they didn't think was going to be enough. So I did hard treatment.
Okay.
And so my system really took a toll. And
Right.
even now, when I stress, I will break out. My skin
Mm-hmm.
can't, but so much. It's just like it all comes out because the reserve that we should have
Right.
has been compromised. And I found that happening. I found my skin staying inflamed. I found my hair starting to come out because I was internalizing everything that I was doing because I was still working. I was still running to my mother's house, stayed there through the night, get up, go do what I do, call different people in, you know, and you're trying to hold it together. But your body is like, oh, we're not together. Your
Right.
body tells you this
Mhm.
this is not working. This is not
Yeah.
working at all. And it was during that time that I really turned back to my art.
Okay.
'Cause that was something that could always put me in a space where
Right.
I kind of get away. I started writing. I started going back to writing poetry. And so when things would quiet down in the house, I could steal away and take those things. I started the journals, the things that upset me. I started writing it out in the journals
Okay, good.
so that I could get it out of my system because I'm always took to heart, honor your mother and father that your days may be long.
Right.
Like the minister said one time, I haven't always been the Muslim that I'm striving to be today.
Right. Right. Yeah, I know about that, right?
You want to take the pieces that if I can honor my mother and father,
Right.
this. So all of these things, you start thinking, oh, is this for some of my past behavior? Is this why,
Yep.
in this
Go through
condition?
that.
You just go through everything in your thought process. But again, I had taken on a part-time position as a registered behavior therapist.
Okay.
And in going in and out of homes, working with children who've been diagnosed with autism,
Okay.
a lot of my training included how to help parents take care of themselves, rearing their children. And
Okay.
I'm like, oh, Allah
Right.
have given me, the things that I started learning to teach were
Right.
absolutely things that I needed for myself because while it wasn't autism, the conditions, the cognitive impairment, the physical challenges, um, becoming less and less of a verbal communicator. All of these things were beginning to manifest as the toll from the stroke started taking its course. One of the things that we found out that the type of stroke that my mother had, while she peaked in recovery,
Mm-hmm.
point, the way the stroke had hit her nerves and nerve ending her brain, pieces of the brain start to break off.
Oh,
Those
wow.
pieces begin like dust. He said it's almost like
Wow.
a fire that hit, and then after a while, those pieces begin to disintegrate.
Hmm.
So we could see different changes, taking place.
Right.
And
Wow.
some of the characteristics that my mother began to display were also characteristics that I saw working with some of the children
Oh, wow.
who had diagnoses, on the spectrum, and some of them were compounded with other, challenges as well.
Right.
So,
Isn't that amazing? Let me just say this. Isn't that amazing how Allah just put your life together and you don't even know that He's it's you be wondering, why am I going through this? It's like it's like He's just working it,
all in the
putting
preparation.
it all together, preparing
Yeah.
you. And it's so beautiful when you realize it's like, wow, I went through this. I mean, go all the way back from when
You
you were
can
thinking about
find
your
the path.
child, from
That's
your
right.
childhood, right? Watching your mother and grandmother, just that, and yours like, that's not who I am type of thing. But your body, your mind, you're taking all this in, and
Yes.
then here it is. You're going through something. Your husband is taking care of you. You're adding that on of how he's taking care of you, and then have to flip it and then do the same and more for him. And
Yes.
then from there, you're like, okay, from what your mom has
Yes.
gone through and everything, that whole little experience, not a little experience, but that whole experience, then here it is, you're in the school system or the teaching children, and now you can still identify.
Yes.
This
It
thing is amazing.
is,
So beautiful, though.
Brother Minister Arif Muhammad, we had a conversation once just talking about our Islam. And he was saying that if we stop, we can see the thread of how Allah
Yes.
has been with us all the time. And you can,
Mhm.
if you want to know, has this God been with us? We can trace it if we want to. And, of course, once you know that, that adds more of our
Mhm.
responsibility and our duty to Allah,
Right,
and it's not in the blind. It's because
right.
we know that Allah has taken care of us to bring us to where we are.
That's
In that
amazing.
process, taking on that part-time work, it was required of me for the CPR. I had to end up resuscitating my father prior to
Mm.
his passing. Had just come out of the class. My father collapsed after a session where everything just kind of went out of him about 3, 4 weeks before he passed. And I was in the house and my brain was just like, you know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And was able to revive him. And when the paramedics came in, they were like, you were just so on time.
Right.
Something you never
Wow.
think,
Yep.
that you'll have to do,
That's
but
right.
it was life-saving. My daughter, severe Crohn's and was near death several times, having to nurse her back. So all of it comes together, and I'm just watching almost like an out-of-body experience
Yes.
because,
Wow.
I'm like, but I'm doing it and saying, but I'm not a nurse. This is
Yes,
not how
you are. You're actually doing it.
we come to find that Allah really provides.
That's right. Let me
He's
ask you,
given.
have you ever thought about writing a book? Or have you wrote a book? Let me ask you that.
Well, I tell people, see, I've been writing journals since Minister Aline told us a long time ago we should journal, we should
Right.
write, keep. So I've been keeping things since '86. And I have all my journals in their own space. And so I look at them sometime and I'm like, I probably could write something. And then I back away. And then there are days when I go in and open up an old one and I'll read it and I say, oh, I think I better take this out.
Right,
So
right.
your own.
Yes.
The past, this past Ramadan, after the prayer line, um, and I can't quite remember what I spoke on to the fullest. I know it was from Savior's Day,
And I
but I
love hearing you, by the way, every Ramadan. I can't wait when you come on and speak. And I'm so thankful that they
oh
have you
praise
every year
God.
nothing against, of course, everyone else, but I just love it. I was like, yeah, I'm waiting for her to come on. Hey, she's going to be here today. So, or this morning. So
Yeah.
it's
There's been
beautiful.
quite a few encouragements from that to when are you going to write something. And
Yeah.
so I thank one of the people who sent that request, sister, we need you to write. And
Yes.
closing words were, so I'm going to look forward to what Allah gives you to write. And
Yeah.
so I think if it ever comes, it'll be that way.
Okay. Yeah. I think you should, because I'm just sitting here listening to you. And the reason why it even came to me is because of what I've just explained, what I heard from your experience, from childhood. And a lot of people, I'm sure other people might have felt the same way. It's like, I'm not a nurse, they don't even see themselves as that, but what's been in front of them. But still, speaking of you, what's been in front of you, you was internalizing it the whole time, and then not even thinking that you will have to even use it. And when it was there in front of you, it was there for you to deal with because you had it already,
Yes,
you know
ma'am.
and so I'm
Just
just saying that to
blessed.
say, isn't it though? It's so beautiful. And I'm saying that to put that process of that story in a book, I'm always thinking of it's going to help somebody else. It will
Yes,
help
ma'am.
other people. They was like, wow, this is my life right here. Or they may not have gone through it, but then they find themselves having to go through it, and then they can
Yeah,
relate to the story. Yes.
it was one of my nurses who, when I was going through my time, who said to me, she said, I'm buying already my portable potty. I'm getting my this. She said, because we're all headed that way.
Yeah.
And she said, and I don't want to be a burden. And I can remember how when we had to start collecting things. And so it was really beautiful when as when my mother transitioned and some of her friends started going through things, we were able to pass it on,
Wow.
by having those things. With it being said, and when you're done with it, if you'll bring it back, because we know we're going to need it one day.
Right, right.
And so we have these, floating pieces of equipment that always come back for the time that we may need it. We had
Mhm.
several walkers, several potties, but I know you were saying like the self-care. Um, I really, I love helping people take care of themselves because I do know what that burnout
Yeah.
um, can do, because it can push you to almost be other than yourself.
Yes.
And when you recognize that, you know, you can't continue to really love and take care of others
Right.
properly if we're
Absolutely.
not doing that for ourselves. And
Yeah.
so the morning, is very sacred to me. A lot of people are, they out greeting people and the text and all that, but I'm like, can't do it. I have to have my reading. After I do my prayer, I'm a reader, I'm a writer.
Mm-hmm.
I read and something hits me and I'm writing 2 or 3 pages. One of the art books that I read, this woman encouraged writing 3 pages. I remember years ago, I think it was Oprah Winfrey who had taken somebody's idea about writing something 19 times, on a paper over and over as an affirmation. The one that I took was called Artist's Way, and she writes 3 pages every day. And I found that when I got the day before out of my system
Mm-hmm.
and wrote down the things that I thought was going to be confronting me or what I wanted to accomplish in a day,
Right.
I could be so much more peaceful because those thoughts weren't jumbled up in there getting in the way. I'd already pretty much mapped out how I wanted to do it, not just the lists, but conversationally.
Right.
Some days I wrote to my mother, some days I wrote to Master Muhammad, some days I wrote to my children, sometimes I still write to Earl. It all depends
Oh,
on
that's
where I
beautiful.
am on
Right.
a
Right.
given day, who I'm writing to, but that writing really helps. I have a bag that has my little things in it. I have my oils in it. So if things get too hectic, I'll go run and I'll take a cotton ball and I will hit myself, and
Yes.
bring myself down. So I have certain um, aromas that I do for certain things.
Right.
We have to be so in tune with ourselves because Allah gave us hormonal expression
Mm-hmm.
that oftentimes when we are caregivers and we get in trouble, we'll go get a medication
Mm.
to help us through.
Right.
Okay. But our body produces everything we need to get us through, but we have to know how to feed our body. See, instead of being angry and tight, we have to be loose enough for the endorphins to do their job.
Yes.
It's natural. And I'm truly, we can get so high, but still stay functional
Mm-hmm.
and be alert and bright because everything is working together. We don't understand how we see a loved one going through something, But if we can find the hint of laughter in it, I mean, there were things, cleaning up a bathroom is no joy.
I know.
But when you turn around and you look at your mother and she's standing there looking at you a certain way, you can either look and get mad or you can look and just bust out
I was
laughing.
out laughing. That's where that sense of humor comes in
Okay.
at.
And it's so much better when you laugh, because when you laugh, they'll laugh, sometimes not knowing why, but when everybody gets to laughing, the body works. It helps heal and calm them down. It helps heal and calm you down. And
Yeah.
then you can just say, Lord, here I am down here cleaning this up,
Right, right,
but you get through.
right,
So
right.
again, the body sends you what you need in order to keep you grounded.
Yeah.
Sometimes with the person, when you're given the care, you got to breathe together. My mother had a beautiful voice. She was a beautiful soprano, so she loved to sing.
Oh,
I'm not the singer, but I would sing with her so we could get calm,
right, right,
because I knew if she could sing, that was going to bring her back to a
right.
certain place. But when we sing, again, we release different hormones. We have the serotonin, we have the melatonin, we have the endorphins, we have the oxytocin.
Mm,
All of these things are the feel good things that if instead of tensing, we go in the opposite direction.
mm-hmm.
But it's conscious. You have to make the decision.
Yeah.
And I don't know where my mother got it years ago. She had a button that said, I'm happy because I choose to be. And I still have that button in the car.
All right.
And that's how you have to think every day.
Right.
I heard this gentleman speak, and he said, you might go to bed a certain way, but you don't have to start where you were last night.
Right.
And I thought about that, and I'm like, Allah gives us a new day. We can approach it with a new attitude.
That's right.
So many of us, we go to bed mad, upset, angry, and we go right back when we wake up. That's the first place that we go to.
You start. Yep.
Instead of, you know what, yesterday is done. Now,
Yeah.
some of the events, I may have to approach it differently, but you have the opportunity to start different. And
Right.
at that time, your wake up body is ready to give you the boost.
Yeah.
So we drag it back down.
Yeah.
Okay. But deep breathing sets your head in a whole nother direction.
Yeah.
Exercise, whole other direction. I heard you say the other night, looking at the sky. I'm sure your phone and mine, they would be twins if they open up to all the moons and sunsets.
Isn't
And,
it beautiful? And
I
there's
look
so
back
much
in
to
my
see.
phone, I have things like 2006, and I'm like, girl, you need to empty this phone.
Yep. Yes.
But even going back and looking at it as a picture, I have in my little bag, I have pictures of certain things that made me feel good. And so when you're not feeling good, take out that picture, go
Yeah.
back to that event, you know,
Yeah.
and bring back, because the body will recreate. We have memory. Everything has this memory place. So we can recreate happy moments in the midst of what we were going through,
That's right.
but you got to love you enough to want to do it for you, because a lot of people dwell in their misery.
Yeah.
A lot of people get handicapped
Yep.
by what they are going through. My sister, her famous line is, I don't look like what I'm going through. A lot of people say, I don't look like what I've been through. She says,
Right.
I don't look like what I'm going through.
Okay.
And, we don't. We don't. Um, that word, just care, you know, taking care. And I always think about, Allah says he would not care for you if it were not for your prayers.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever we do something good, it is a prayer. It's
Yeah.
a charity,
Yeah.
but we don't think about it because we haven't had that language to
Right.
help us to understand. When you touch somebody, you're transferring. And so if you're not peaceful and you're holding somebody, you're transferring your negativity to them. People don't understand. You can't touch everybody
That's right.
because you bring back what they're sending off.
And babies
So
will let you know that, right?
yes, children and pets.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
They
They
will
will let
tell
you
on
know.
you. You can be faking it in front of everybody else, but the children and the animals will let you know
That's right.
where you really are in that moment because we emote.
That's right.
Those hormones, they excrete into the atmosphere, and
That's
we
right.
don't think about that,
I
so
think because we don't realize who we are. We don't even know that about ourselves. We don't even, and it kind of touches me because I'm like, this who we are. It's like it's so beautiful.
oh my
Oh
gosh.
my gosh. And the fact that when I start learning about this and even like taking Reiki classes where you can learn how to do it on yourself, I love
Yes,
it. When you can feel that energy start and how it
sister.
stops, I love it.
Wells up. And that's the
Yes.
beautiful part is the more you learn you and the
Yes.
more you love you and the more you care for loving you don't depend on the externals,
That's right.
you know, and that's what it takes to really become a caregiver
Yeah.
because then we can give out and know that what we have in us, you can give it. I mean, when you just look at the minister. I don't care what he has had to say, to do, to straighten out.
Yeah.
When he comes to you, it is just like this
I know.
ball of light, and just
But
makes you
didn't he
feel
say
like
he
you
carried his own?
own atmosphere.
That's right.
And we all have that capability.
That's right.
But it's first believing God is a man and not a spook and a spirit.
That's right.
Okay. Because if we don't think we have the potential, it's not going to happen.
That's right.
And if we allow others to, I'm getting a class together, and so we're looking at some vocabulary, and they had the word disruptive and bias, and they had it under a negative category. And so I was like, well, I'm gonna have to change that. I said, because some disruption is good.
It's good. That's right.
All disruption is some things have to be disrupted.
That's
Some
right.
things you have to have a bias about, especially when it
I
comes
agree.
to taking care of self. So, already I'm like, I can see where my class going now. No, but just
That's why
being,
I love listening to you. See what I'm saying? Love it.
but that's self-love because if
That's
you let
right.
everybody tell you disruptive is negative,
That's
then you
right.
go along.
Right.
You conform to everything. That's not what a lot and illogical. That was the other word.
Okay.
And with the God, what's logical to everybody else is not necessarily the logic of God.
That's right.
So we have to be willing to do those things. When my mother, they wanted to give her a lot of pills, that's the logic.
Right.
Because when you have a stroke, you take this, you do this, you do this. And we're like, no,
Right.
she's not going to take this because we're going to feed her this.
Right.
She's going to eat herself into wellness. We're not going to let you give her a pill that's going to deteriorate her condition even further.
Right. Let me ask you, based on what you just said there. Now, I would just had my physical, you do the blood work.
Mm-hmm.
Everything came back good. Kidney, liver, all that levels, blood work, all that was good, blood pressure. All what my doctor called today, and I knew when I saw the numbers, I knew she was going to call. And she called today, it was my cholesterol. And I'm saying to myself, I'm not understanding. And of course, they're going to want to go towards giving you a pill towards. And she said, Kim, I know you for a long time, and I know you have made it clear you don't like the pills, you don't like this. And I was like, no, I don't, because I understand that one pill can cause another thing to happen. And as you see, my blood work and everything else is good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to go down that rabbit hole. I'm just
Right.
no. So I'm like, I don't understand why my cholesterol is 316 or whatever. And then she was like, it could be hereditary because I know you eat a certain way and this, that, and the other. I was like, I don't eat cheese like I used to. I don't, dairy stuff. I don't eat it. I'm like, I eat one meal a day, And I was like, okay, I cut back on the butter that I put in my soup. So I'm just starting to
Mm-hmm.
adjust certain things. Now, I know during the summer, wintertime, I'm not as active, and now the weather started to change, so I'm becoming a little more
Mm-hmm.
active now, right? Go back doing my yoga,
Right.
starting yoga classes, and then getting out walking. So she said, well, you do those things and let's revisit it in 6 months. I said, okay. So I
And
went to
that's
what
what
do
you
you
have to do. You have to take control. That's the first thing I tell them, I come to you to hear what you have to say,
right?
but I'm going to do my plan. And
Yeah,
I always give myself another 6 months
right,
to do what I'm going to employ based on our teaching and how we
right.
eat. Um, Now, I did hear you say something the other day when you were interviewing, and I was going to get with you because the organ that you spoke about, tension, and tension can also push cholesterol
Okay,
because it can restructure cortisol,
okay,
which pushes into cholesterol.
okay,
And
okay.
so we have to see how our
Mm-hmm.
thinking, the Honorable Elijah Mama said we got to eat right,
Right,
think right, right food, prepared the right way at the right time, the whole formula.
right.
So we have to look at every aspect.
But they don't, this is not, but they don't, that kind of stuff doesn't even, you
No,
know what I'm
they're
saying?
they're
Yeah,
built on triggers.
right,
So when certain words come for them, the trigger is not the health. The trigger is Band-Aid
right.
because that's tied into the economics and
Right.
unfortunately supreme wisdom. One of the things that I always say that when I came to really start looking at supreme wisdom, the problem book, I then knew that Master Muhammad was indeed God because he had laid out what our medical life would look like in
Mm-hmm.
1930. He told us how many pills we'd be taking a day. He told us how
Mm-hmm.
the pills would be costing us. He told us the ailments that we would be having.
Mm-hmm.
All of that is there. And only God could know that a
Right,
people 100 years down the pike would be in the medical holocaust
right,
that we are in with our lives.
right.
The hands of doctors who gave their word, do no harm.
And
So
the body
again,
is so intelligent,
self-care,
you know?
yes, self-care is mandatory
Yes,
because those who we have given charge, but the Quran said you would take your doctors and your lawyers and your monks as God, and
mm-hmm.
they are not.
Right,
So those are three areas. When you look at your health, when you look at those who are going to protect you by law, and when you look at those who should be sharing with you gospel to give you a religious foundation and celebration, those are three areas that we have to take care of for self.
right.
So,
Praise be to Allah.
self-care is medical, but it's
Yeah,
spiritual, it's physical, it's mental, it's economical, it's every discipline of life that
right.
keeps us alive.
And
Um,
I'm listening to, and I'm so thankful that you said that because you know, now I do understand there are times you have to go to the doctors. There are times you have to
Mhm.
have surgery. There are times you may have to take something. I get that, and I'm not ignorant to the fact, right?
Right, right,
And I told her that. I said, I don't want you, I don't really care,
right,
but I just want, because we're good as far as my relationship with my doctor. And I'm like, let me correct you on that. It's not like I don't like taking the pills. I really don't, but I know we don't have to.
right.
I know we
And
don't
that's
have
it.
to.
But you said a key thing, you and your doctor get along. And part of self-care and self-love is having those resource persons who are partners with you.
Mm-hmm.
See, our medical personnel, they have to be partners. I will drop a doctor in a heartbeat.
That's right.
If he says to me one thing and I said, well, this is not the approach that I want to take. Well, this is how we do it. And I'm like, either we're going to partner and you're going to listen
Right.
and you're going to watch and observe what I do. And then if this does not work, I will come back and we'll look again at, depending on what stage or gravity, by Allah's grace, mercy. I'm 22 years out of a cancer that they did not see me doing well at all.
Praise be to Allah.
22 years, and I
Wow.
told them after the first 6 months, I'm not taking any of your other medicines.
Mm-hmm.
I did the chemotherapy and I made that choice based on how impacted they said my system was with
Right.
cancer had gone into the body. But all the other treatments they wanted to do afterwards, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing your radiation. I'm not taking your 5-year pill. I'm not taking your 10-year pill. And
Mm-hmm.
then, but like, if the quality of life, and we have a program.
Right.
I believe in our program. And
Mm.
that's another part of caregiving is how strong is your belief in your foundation? Because you can believe in anything and it will strengthen you.
Right.
So how do we believe about how to eat to live? How do we believe that we don't have to take the medicine? How do we believe that their drugs and their medicines are not the cure?
Mm-hmm. That's
How
right.
do we believe that fasting will help us? How do we believe that listening to music will help us? How do we believe dancing and laughing and having company will help us?
Yeah. Yeah.
So belief triggers endorphins.
Yeah.
Okay. So what you believe comes out in your face. You
Yeah.
can see when somebody really, you see them glow in it.
Yeah.
Even if they say I'm an atheist, but if they believe it and that's their glow system, they're gonna glow in their inordinancy, blindly wandering on. But
That's
it
right.
is what triggers the body to do its job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay?
Uh,
So we have to know this body.
that's right.
Yeah. And it
Wow.
is it is a marvelous, marvelous thing.
The more I learn about it and I see how my body go through what it goes through, it does it
Mhm.
sometimes, a lot of times it don't feel good, but then it comes back and it's just, and I'm like, the body is so amazing. It's like,
Because it
look how
talks
it
to you,
continues to fight every single day to keep you alive. I look at some
communicates all
people,
the time.
yes, I look at some people when really have done some serious damage to their body. They are still walking around kicking, you know, and I'm like, if the body wasn't made the way it was, you would have been out of here a long time ago. We would have been out of here a long time
There was
ago.
a sister talking to me the other day, and she said, because I told him I'm 55 years old, so and so and so and so. I said, well, I'm glad you feel that way. I said, because I feel like that, and I'll be 72 this year. And she turned around, she said, "You're gonna be what?"
Yeah,
you know,
you look
I
so
said,
good.
my picture in front of me is 125. So I'm looking ahead.
That's
I said I may
right.
not make it,
But
but I've got to feel this way if I'm going to try to get to 125.
that's right. Absolutely. That's what
So
I'm.
that's
You got to
part of my
think that.
caregiving.
That
Yes.
there you go. caregiving. You got to see yourself living
Yes.
125, right?
Yes. And doing well.
And doing
Doing
well.
well.
There you go. I love it. And that's amazing because we really do. It's like I remember some time ago, someone say, "How do you see yourself 60 years from now?" That was when I was much younger and stuff. And at the
Mm-hmm.
time, I was like, I see myself. Oh, I don't even want to say how I saw myself. But then it's nothing like that. And I was like, what in the world was I thinking? Right.
Yes.
So now
Yes.
I'm changing that whole thing. And I'm like, because of how I feel today, and
Yes.
people say I look younger, they can't believe it. And how
That's right.
my age, right? And so I'm like, that's a good thing. I'm like, okay, let's keep this thing going. The body going to go through what it go through, but
Absolutely.
learn from it,
That's it.
and then
Yes.
adjust. We can do this thing.
We
I can't
can.
believe this body is here. It's amazing. Isn't it beautiful?
Because coming up where I grew up, how I grew up, I didn't think I would make it past 30.
Okay.
And I had come into teaching, I think I was like 27.
Okay.
And so when I started hitting like 33, 34, I'm like, girl, you still alive,
That's right.
you know? And I'm like, okay. So I never even started thinking other than teaching.
Right.
I never really thought about a lot of things of what I wanted to do. I didn't think about things I wanted to have or, any of that because I did not see me being here. And I
Yeah.
don't know why I wasn't,
Yeah.
So, and again, the rollback, I look at, okay, maybe I did die because I started leaving that world coming into Islam.
That's
So,
right.
in my head, I'm processing, okay, new life.
You're right.
We get the resurrection. We have the first death, we have the resurrection. And of course, our resurrection is coming to life and knowledge of self.
That's right.
So with that, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna live. So how to eat to live. Then I heard the minister talking about 120 club. Well, I read something recently about the 120, and I said, I'm pushing mine to 125.
I know
But I
that's
heard
right.
Dr. Aleem say years ago, he said, we in the nation would have to be on shows like this,
Mm-hmm.
on the news, talking about how to eat to live, and we'll have to be 100 and some years old to prove that how to eat to live gave us long life.
That's right. And you know what? That speaking of that, it's like I know a lot of times people don't like to tell their age. And I was like, where did that come from? But today I don't have a problem. I never really had a problem, but back in the day, people say, I don't want nobody to know how old I am. But I think today is so beautiful to be able to say that. You say you're
Especially
72.
coming out of our journey. Now,
That's
Mother
right.
Tanetta did say, we don't say, I'm such and such a old.
Right. Okay.
Because the God is giving us life of that as 16.
Okay.
So we don't see ourselves getting old. So we have to drop the word old.
Oh, okay. Well,
Just
you're
like, we don't
72
say
years
hello.
young.
Right, exactly. Or
But
I have, 72 years of life.
right,
I have 22 years of continuing in the rotation of the sun.
right.
Find ways to project your number, but
Yeah.
don't add old
Oh, to it.
onto it.
And
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying this to say it's because I'm looking at you and you said 72. And that's so beautiful. You don't even look it for sure. You just don't. And I love this, and I'm like, I'm almost 60 myself, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and I look at myself and I'm like, I don't feel it. I don't look it. When you stand next to my oldest son, people think that's your son. You know what I mean? And so I'm
Thank
like,
you.
let's just keep this thing going. And I'm like, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. I love it. I'm so thankful for Islam,
I know.
isn't it? It's like new life. And having these conversations, I think it just continued to motivate and inspire and
Mhm.
uplift. It's just all that good stuff,
And
to
it's the
keep you
new
going.
Islam.
Yeah,
It's what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says, we'll have a new Islam because Islam is everything. And generally, when you hear Islam, Christianity, Judaism. You're talking about the rituals of faith.
Right.
But our Islam is how we live.
It's how we
It
live.
is the everything that we do.
That's right.
So we have to talk about all these disciplines because the Islam is through all of it.
Right.
It's through all of it, every aspect of it. And if we're not here, if we're not living, we can't tell it. We can't be the bearers of witness.
Like my song
No,
say, if you're not living, if you're not loving, you're not living.
you're not living. That's right. Because there's a lot of Walking Dead. That show that they had, there's a lot of Walking Dead,
Yeah.
and we all can go back. I mean, I can go back and recall being among the Walking Dead.
Yes.
And so that's why I love, it's hard to say no to something like this. It's a challenge because I'm still sitting here talking. But we
and I'm
have
so thankful that you said yes.
We have to do it because we're at the beginning of the new Islam. We are helping by Allah's permission, to be the baby steps coming into what people like we did will take for granted way ahead, not knowing, that we had to stop eating hog to be able to talk about how to eat to live. They won't even know hog. They won't have to even think about that process. Right. So just caregiving in the mind of throwing off something that you've been indoctrinated with all your life.
Yep.
And now you're giving that up to take on something new. So you have to make a way to make room for the new. Like they say about your wallet. You can't have all old, balled up old money in there when you want the new money to come in and make you rich. You gotta move it out the way. Right. And so that's, again, caregiving for us. Coming out of that world, like the minister says in Closing the Gap, we're in that transitory piece. So we must know how to take care of ourselves. We haven't crossed over yet.
Right.
So we're closing out one way, entering into something else. And if we don't take care of ourselves on this thin thread, it could go either way.
That's right. You said it's thin thread.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Absolutely. And we just have a few more minutes. And oh my gosh, I just love talking to you. And I wanted to talk, if you can give us just maybe 2 to 3 minutes on color therapy. Color therapy.
Oh my gosh.
I know I started something, right? I wanted to ask you earlier,
Mother Tynetta talks about music, color, and medicine, a healing for a nation. And she prescribed yellow when we come through a healing process. Yellow is the color for healing. And I think if you listen to Brother Minister Nuri, and he goes through color and food.
Okay.
And where each color goes with the food and where that food feeds.
Oh, wow.
That will help us to have a better understanding. So we have our blue and purple foods, and those are foods that we eat more during the winter, but they, have their part in the body. We have our red foods that give us the spices and the energy and things like that. We have our green foods that helps us in our heart and making us strong. So every color there. Then you transfer those colors that you put into your body, now bring them out. What do you put around you? Mm-hmm. What kind of colors do you put around you to lift you up? And then not only just the color, but then you have to be concerned with, I have the color blue, but is my blue based on blue that has black threads in it, or is my blue with some green in it, or is my blue with some white? Because each one of those also have its place, and that's why you have the color spectrum. Amazing. Okay, so when we dress, if you're feeling a certain way and you need to shift, then you put the color on that you need to shift to. so that you bring yourself into harmony with that. You
Mhm.
know, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
It is a lot.
I just had to throw this thing in. I wanted to ask, like I say, ask earlier on, but it was so much. The conversation was so wonderful because I know how color is plays a role in healing, just like
Because every
sound
color
plays a
comes
role
through
in
light.
healing. Yes.
See, it's still with the sun, it's still with the light, it's still with the water in the atmosphere.
Yes.
All of that is still coming to us
Right.
at 8 minutes and 20 seconds. What is it doing as it moves through our system? All of that is very important.
Yeah.
It's very important. But again, Sister Minister Ava said, we think study is, I read it. Study Master Fard Muhammad 42 years to begin this part of the work.
Mm.
So we have to pick something.
Yeah.
And let's say, this is what I'm going to put my interest in.
Yeah.
Well, what is more important than self?
That's right.
To study. You know, so we
That's
all
beautiful.
have to do that part.
Yeah.
Because again, the uniqueness, we both wear red, but you might have to wear a hot red. I may have to wear a more subdued red, you know, and then depending on what you're getting ready to do that day in that red,
That's
you know,
right.
so
But
all of
isn't
that.
it true? Because I know for me, I notice how I gravitate. It's like for some reason, there are times I'm like, I don't see nothing but yellow. I go to the store and I'm like, oh, I love this yellow dress. Or
Mm-hmm.
I go somewhere and I'm like, oh, I love this yellow. It's everything is yellow. And I sit there and I smile. It's like, okay, Kim, you act like there's no other color on the planet right now but
And
yellow.
at that time, but you're the person who can say, when someone says, what's your favorite color? Well, now it's
There you go.
because you're in it at that time.
That's
Now,
right.
this week, my sister and I, we've had to do some things together. She's going through a medical thing. Today, yesterday, day before yesterday, and the day before that, when she pulls up, we have on the same colors. Different out. I mean, we look totally different, but our color schemes, we have tuned in, and our color schemes have been the same for 4 days in a row.
Wow.
You know,
And
so all those things, how you are with people, all of that just determines so much. You know, I'm the person who can say, oh, I'm going to wear so and so next week. I don't even know that person because it is what's in my head and my feeling as I go to my closet. What's coming out? More things come to me because they come to me than I go get things.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because what comes to me is more of what I need. If I go get it, I'm getting it based on something that I want. And it may not necessarily be what I should have.
That's right.
So we have to, again, the universe sends us
That's right.
so much information and so much, and we just have to stop because if we don't, and I truly say, my cancer was a stop moment. Allah is like, since you don't know how to stop, I really need to make you stop. I had just prior to my cancer, I had to have several blood transfusions.
Okay.
My blood levels were at 2 and 3.
Mm.
Sister Alima came to me to help me for a moment. And she said to me, she said, only Allah is keeping you alive. She said, my AIDS patients have blood counts better than yours.
Mm.
And at that period in my life, I was like a ball, like a knot,
Wow.
because of everything that I was holding and internalizing that I was not releasing.
Mm.
And I am convinced that my cancer was more of an emotional cancer
Okay.
than environmental and other things. When I did the checklist,
Yeah.
I didn't have all of that stress.
Mm-hmm.
And we as caregivers, oftentimes you will nurse a person to health and then your health will fail
Yeah. But that's
because we did
why,
not know how to take care and we held everything we were going through
right,
in
and not
that
knowing how to
process.
release, right? And that's why I'm glad you said that. That's why with Push for Love, I always ask Allah first. I'm like, okay, Allah, how are you, or where do you want me to take Push for Love? And the
Mm.
only thing to come is heal. It's healed. Out. I don't hear nothing else. I don't
Keep
hear
pushing.
nothing else but heal. And we
But
have
that's the
to,
love we need today.
yes,
The love we need today is healing. We'll get to other loves. But
to heal.
today, coming out of our trauma,
That's
we
right.
need healing.
It's all about healing.
We need
And
healing.
like what you just said and the things we just talked about, I just went to the Himalaya salt cave the other day. I wanted to
I saw
experience.
your picture. I'm like, I'm going to find that.
Do you know? It's like you be thinking that nothing is happening, but do you know? Once I left, I was relaxed. It was like it's a nice little temperature. It wasn't hot, it wasn't cold, it was none of that. But do you know when I left, by the time I got home, I started coughing. Or it wasn't really coughing. I started swallowing, and it tastes salty.
The salt, and it'll
Yes,
purge. Yeah, it'll purge
yes.
things out of you. See, when people travel, I get them to bring me sand. And I
Okay.
do sand rubs, from sand from different parts of the planet.
Right.
And just like an exfoliator, and that's one of my healing things to stuff, one of my treats, because I don't know that I'll get to everywhere, but this healing properties in sand that's been sitting in the sun, picking up the rays,
Yes.
I put them in shoe boxes, put my feet in it, rub my feet all around like I'm walking, just close my eyes. I have a tent in the back of my house. I always try to keep some kind of tent or a hut or something in my yard so that, sometimes you have to escape from your own house, but you can't go places.
There
So
you go.
like you're saying with your, going to the salt, see, you make me now thinking, okay, I'm going to take one of my sand boxes and I'm going out here in my tent and I'm just going to lay back, but you have to do those things
Yeah.
for yourself.
And that's why I want to
Things
bring
are
these
too
type of things.
expensive,
Yeah. And it
things
wasn't
are
that
all
expensive.
around us that we can do. Like I said, I can't even get up to Bethesda, but I can go in the yard in that nice hot little tent today that's hot and put my feet in my sand and feel like you and just get some of that breeze because the sand still smells like the beaches that it comes from
There
because I
you
keep them
go.
in jars and things,
Right.
so I can smell it. Some people bring me ocean water. Yeah, people tell me, say, you
Oh,
almost get me in trouble on the plane. I got to bring this water. But those are the things, that make me heal inside. And so as you know yourself, you find out what does it for you, because again, everything is not for everybody,
that's right.
not a one size fit all. But the thing is, start thinking, I love me.
That's
I
right.
want to take care of me.
Yeah. And you have
And
to, these things have to be introduced because if I wasn't introduced, I think the fact that I'm a seeker anyway, and that's just kind of, I'm always about natural healing. I've always been that way, right? And as I'm growing, I'm always seeking,
mhm.
and so it just comes to me. And I've been watching this one for the longest time. I said, I'm going to do this now. And this so happened, it's normally $35. On a Wednesday, it was $20
and,
for
and see, the
45
thing is,
minutes, 50
that's
minutes.
that's a that's a coffee and a snack,
Okay. My health is
and look
important.
at what. That's right.
My
That's
health is
right.
important. I will travel the earth, honestly, to do certain
Praise
things
to
like a
Allah.
lymphatic massage. I drove to North Carolina. Me and Sister Lateefah.
Yes.
She's coming up
Yes.
this way now, so I'm just saying it's like we have to step out, but we have
Mm-hmm.
to introduce, like the sound therapy. We have to introduce these
That's
things that
right.
some of us may not know that it exists. And then what is it? What is it going to do? It's time to educate. It's time
See,
to
when you
expose and
were
educate.
sharing that with the whole chakras and all, I tell people, Brother Earl used to say to me, he said, if you wasn't a Muslim, I think you was a witch. Because see, all of those things, like you, one of my pen names is Seeking Water. When I write my poems, I write under that. So when you were saying seeking, and I use water as knowledge, and so
Okay.
seeking water.
That's
But
beautiful.
I'm like you, and a lot of those things I'll start in a book first, and then I'll find where is that, so that I can go it and see it and touch it,
Yeah,
and we have to do it. But
you have to do it.
that's, the idea that Allah says, we have 196,940,000 square miles. Coming up, you didn't know that.
Yes,
But
right.
now, not only do we know it, and then we know it's ours. I just love when I hear the minister
That
say,
part.
on our planet, our planet, our planet. I'm like, yes,
That's right.
our planet.
Our planet.
Go,
That part right there.
go,
That's right.
because
I
it's
love
all
it.
out there. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
your time is up.
oh my gosh. It's like I needed like 5 hours with you. I'm like, see, it's always have to be a part 2 with you, and a part 3 probably, and a part 4. And it just goes
Uh,
on and on.
Praise be to
And I'm
Allah.
like, thank you. Oh, we got to wrap this up. And
Yes, ma'am.
this was wonderful. And I just thank you. I'm so humble that you said yes to have you here as the guest today. It's just always a pleasure. It's
I
always
thank you.
a
I thank
pleasure.
Allah. I
I
thank
can
this
talk to you all
teaching,
day long,
because
because you have so
our
much.
Islam made us sisters.
Yes,
People
ma'am.
we never thought we would meet, when that phrase, friends in all walks, friendship in all walks of life, it's people like you that I am so grateful. And kindred spirits,
Yes, ma'am.
when you find that, you find those people again, the universe brings the people to you, who are seeking. And we're all seeking Allah. That's what it really is.
Yeah,
We're all seeking that relationship with the God. And it's the God coming through each one of us when he uses us in the moment.
that's
There's sometimes when I'm like, he's like, no, sis, I'm not coming through you today because you are cutting up. But when, you know, he's like, yeah, you come on back to me a little later when you get on that prayer run. But
But what I
you know,
will say, I want to say this real quick too before we go. Push for Love is having the retreat in July. It's the boat retreat, just something to sit back, relax, and enjoy ourselves. We're not putting no effort to do anything, but just enjoy the water, the music, people, whatever, right? That's July.
praise be to Allah.
Yeah, July. Sometimes, and then we on the water, we just have to get away.
And
That's July 20th. But then October the 5th, we having another retreat at the Bethesda Pook Hill Marriott. Now, I know I threw it out there, but I would love for you to come and be the guest speaker, the main speaker for us, because you have so much and we just need to have that type of energy. You could think about it, think
I
about
want
it.
to say yes. And we are far enough in advance for me to be able to say yes. That is coming up on my birthday weekend.
So thank you so much, Sister
Thank you,
Lateefah
Sister
Muhammad.
Kimberly.
Oh my God, this was beautiful. And my
Praise
energy is so good. I'm going to go outside and do my second part of the walk and make my 10,000.
Yes, ma'am. Get that
I
10,000.
got
Yes,
6 down,
ma'am.
so all I can do is make a couple of laps and get that. I can knock this out. I'm feeling
All
real
right.
good right now. So
I love
so
you.
much. I love
Thank
you too. And I just want to say about Push for Love, as far as the website, you can go to pushforlovegives.com and support us, make a donation. You got all kind of apparel there. And if you have any questions, you can email me at pushforloveinc@gmail.com. Pushforloveinc@gmail.com. The website is pushforlovegives@the end.com. Please support us. We truly, truly need it as a nonprofit. Donations, we will never, ever turn away donations, and support by purchasing the apparel. A percentage goes towards the nonprofit. So thanks again, Sister Lateefah, and we will be talking until next time.
Yes, ma'am. All praises due to Allah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.